Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in, joined by Coach Holt as we get you set for the time of the year we've been waiting on all year. It is the playoffs. It is here, not for the Dodgers yet. That starts Saturday. But, hey, we pretty much saw the playoffs yesterday with the Braves and the Mets. We pretty much knew they were going to split. So that leaves out the Diamondbacks first, Coach. Let's start there with that. We'll get into the Dodgers and talk about the regular season, but start with the fact that the Diamondbacks did not make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of a shocker, to be honest with you. We all thought that. Of course, the world champion didn't get in either. They didn't really had a chance all year, the Rangers. So the Diamondbacks, I'd put them up there. They're not quite as good as the Padres, but they're a good team. We thought all along, Case, they'd both be in there, the Padres and the Diamondbacks. But what we think doesn't matter. What's what goes on the field. And the two teams that knocked them out, are pretty dadgum good too, and they played each other yesterday. You don't get to see a situation like that very often. Doubleheader, and both of them celebrating, popping champagne on the same days, the same stadium. And I even saw a video of them out on the field, their goggles on, hugging each other and taking pictures. So that's a neat deal. The Mets and the Braves are out there on the field after knocking their champagne down and all that kind of stuff. I guess they better get ready to play today, though, don't they? I guess they had to kind of take they're both playing today. So
it was more of like just, hey, we're showing everybody we're doing this and actually drinking the champagne.
Yeah, we'll knock back a couple of drinks and get on the plane, go somewhere, but whatever. It was a neat situation. Yeah, I'm kind of shocked that the Diamondbacks didn't get in there, but they had their struggles and everybody came out of it. Totally.
Right.
They kind of every team, including the Dodgers, top to bottom, had their moments in 162 game season, and they just never really came out of it. So what you do on the field matters. So that's what it comes down to. Yeah,
last year was the Padres' turn to not live up to expectations. This year was the D-backs' turn, and I say that all the time, Coach. And I know, hey, as a Dodgers fan, it's all about at least making the World Series, putting yourself in a position to win a World Series, but you cannot take for granted all of the winning that the Dodgers do every single year. You have to appreciate that, and you just can't, like I said, you just can't overlook that and say, well, they haven't won anything in the playoffs, so none of that winning matters. Trust me, it will matter if you ever have a season like the D-backs and the Dodgers don't make the playoffs. You'll be wishing you could go back to the time when the Dodgers were winning 96, 98 games every single year. But, hey, that takes us into this year, Coach. 17 different starters, 40 different pitchers. Mookie Betts has been out for times. Freddie Freeman's been out for times. Will Smith, you name it. Everybody. Max Muncy. Gavin Lux had a terrible first half of the season. Walker Buehler didn't really recover kind of the way that we didn't want him to. Yoshinobu Yamamoto. All this stuff, you still, by I think 3 or 4 games, had the best record in all of baseball. Now, all this is going to change because the focus after today's show is going to turn to, what have you done for me lately? What do we need to do in the playoffs? But as of for right now, man, you got to just really appreciate and be very proud of this season the Dodgers just had.
No, considering everything, what you just went over and many other things that happened, for them to accomplish what they did, first of all, it tells you how good the Dodgers were to begin with. Well, we talked about the preseason on paper, which nobody cares about actually. Unless it's, they just don't. It's on paper means nothing once you get on the field. But, that just tells you how good the ball club the Dodgers had, which we knew going in. But you never know if that guarantees success, and with what they were handed this year, obviously the race was a lot closer to us last year.
Yeah.
Dave Roberts had to deal with a lot last year, losing your entire rotation. This year may have been worse because you lost some position players.
Yeah.
You lost a lot of people during the season for an extended period of time. So this probably was worse as far as every day he walked in the office of the clubhouse and what he was having to deal with to put a lineup out there. And like I said, some struggles with Lux starting out early. That's a great story for us as Dodger fans that Lux, the second half he had, might have saved us, be real honest with you, because there was a stretch. He was our best hitter, hitting 3-hole. And, you don't like to put that pressure on one guy, but he was coming through and a lot of other guys were either hurt or struggling. So there's a lot of guys that contribute to that, picking up Tommy Edman and those guys, Flaherty there at the trade deadline, and Kopech. It's been a great run. Great decisions have been made from the top, the front office, all the way down through David and staff. I don't think you can take that for granted. As you mentioned a while ago, I don't want to hear more about how the Braves won 14 division titles or won one World Series. They had a great manager, great players, Hall of Fame players. Why do we sneeze at that? I know it's all about winning. I get that. It's like the Buffalo Bills. Well, they lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. Yeah, but they got the 4 Super Bowls. I mean, they're not in it for the feel good, but don't sneeze at stuff like that. Those are great accomplishments. Right. Same thing with the Dodgers. It's a great accomplishment. I know we're not in here for participation trophies.
We are not.
We are not. Dodgers definitely aren't, and nobody else is either. Padres aren't either. None of these teams are in for that. So, but it's a big scheme. Probably when the season's over, at some point you can look back and say that. But great accomplishment for this ball club and the staff. And man, they had to go through it this year, and they got it done. So far,
it's okay to do both things. Appreciate the excellence that Andrew Friedman, Dave Roberts has put on the field for just the extended period of time the Dodgers have been excellent under this regime. And then also expect more and be frustrated that the Dodgers only do have that one World Series and be a little bit antsy maybe and excited about getting that first World Series under their belt with this generation of Dodgers. When I say this generation, I mean Freddie, Shohei. Coach, I say it all the time. I relate it like to a baseball game. Sometimes that hardest run to score, you taught me this a long time ago, can be that first run, right? Let's get that first run on the board. Let's get that out of the way. You just feel like this generation of Dodgers, if they can get that first World Series, you feel like that might just open up that faucet.
Yeah, I mean, they just – like I said, we're going to find out about Shohei. This is the first time he's ever been in the playoffs, and of course Mookie and Freddie have some experience in that area, but they always are under a microscope, the stars. So it's going to be, is it going to be like we had last year? The movie, they didn't perform him and Freddie didn't perform the playoffs, or
and they didn't,
and they didn't, and there's no sugarcoating that.
No,
but they're under more of a microscope, and you can't win if your stars don't perform. That's true in every sport. Football,
they know that.
Just take it right down through there. We know, like we mentioned in the last showcase, you're going to win because of what the other guys do. If we're going to win the whole thing. But they have no shot if those stars don't perform. Right.
And if those stars do perform, even if the other guys don't, if your pitching holds up, you have a chance to win like 4-3, 3-2, something like that.
Absolutely.
But if those stars perform and then also the lineup lengthens at the bottom, Tommy Edman gets a hit or two, steals a base. Gavin Lux gets a couple of big RBI base hits. Miguel Rojas, if he's healthy, he comes through like he has been able to throughout this season. When that happens, that's when the Dodgers get really, really good. But, hey, they're going to be facing a really good opponent. I would say the heavy odds would say that it's going to be the Padres again. That series against the Braves, of course, Max Fried can't even pitch until the second game. They are starting Michael King. The Padres are tonight. And so whoever the Braves put out there is going to be facing King. All 3 games are at Petco Park. That also tells you Darvish is not throwing in this Wildcard series. So they're throwing King, they're throwing Musgrove, and Dylan Cease. And that's a pretty darn good lineup of 3 pitchers to throw out there. That means, of course, Darvish is going to pitch Saturday in Los Angeles in Game 1 for the Dodgers. And so you're talking about Austin Riley being out. You're talking about no Ronald Acuna, Max Fried not until Game 2. Every single game is at San Diego. Just played a doubleheader. Of course, it wasn't really a doubleheader for the Braves. They played the one game they had to win. The other game just didn't matter to them. But you still did have to play yesterday. You got to travel to, everything. Plus, probably the Padres, well, not probably. The Padres simply put a lot better team than the Atlanta Braves. So that doesn't mean that it always happens that way on the field. But the way it sets up, this is a heavily favored Padres team over the Braves.
Yeah, there's no doubt. You're looking at it again. We're looking at paper, but the things you mentioned can be devastating for the Braves, not having the guys that they've got missing and not available to them. And if there's a team that quote unquote limped into the playoffs, it probably was the Braves and the Mets for that matter. The Padres have been sitting there. They've clinched a playoff berth, a while ago. Not a long while ago, but they've known they were going to the playoffs one way or the other as division champ or as wild card for a while. But sometimes that works well if you have to play right, as we've talked about, continue playing like you normally do. But like you said, the Braves are shorthanded. They got a short part of the stick in a lot of areas, but the guys they got missing and playing at Petco against a very good team that really Padres are, as good as anybody out there. So,
yep.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would think we'd be playing the Padres Saturday, but you never know.
Yeah. The Padres are going to have better pitching, starting pitching, than the Braves. They're going to have a better bullpen. They're going to have as good, if not better, defense, and they're going to have a better offense than the Atlanta Braves. So it would, I mean, hey, like you said, you never know, man. Baseball is the most unpredictable sport in baseball, and I can tell you, even the greatest coaches that have the most amount of information, you can put all this game plan together all you want, but when they throw out the first pitch in baseball, I mean, it's just so unpredictable. You never know. So what the Dodgers are really hoping for, maybe the Braves somehow figure out a way to beat Michael King in game one and make it a series that's, it's going to be 3 days in a row, so there will be that off day on Friday. So regardless of what happens, either team will have a day off in between this wild card series and when they come to Los Angeles. And then another factor to this that's kind of, in the Padres' favor is that it's in San Diego. So if they do win the series, there's absolutely no travel for them whatsoever to come to Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, that'd definitely be an advantage for them. And all things are pointing towards the Padres, but none of us expected the Dodgers to get smoked last year in the playoffs either, with that, and look bad doing it. So, but you never know again. But everything favors the Padres, and I think everybody's kind of wanting to see the Dodgers and the Padres again. I know it's a tight fit.
I'm not.
Been all year. I'm not either. But again, if you want to get where you want to be from here on, it should be tough. It should be hard, and it's going to be no matter who you're playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say that somehow the Braves beat the Padres this week. You come in. I think if you look at the pitching staff, the Dodgers that they announced that, I think this is what we've been telling you this entire time: Flaherty, Yamamoto, Buehler, and Knack. So that I think that fourth game when you list Knack as that starter, I think that could go either way. That could be a start from Knack. I think that could be an open from an Anthony Bonda, and then a bulk inning performance from Landon Knack. I don't think that fourth spot necessarily has to be a start. I think that could be part of a bullpen game and a just kind of a bulk inning type deal for Landon Knack. So where are you at with this pitching staff with the Dodgers, Coach?
Well, I feel great about the bullpen. And like I said, it's always the what have you done for me lately? And the starters lately, the ones you just mentioned there, have all done pretty well. Yamamoto has been good in his 2 starts. Buehler looked like, his last start was really outstanding, something we've been looking for. So I feel better about the starting pitching than before. And the bullpen has been great. So I feel really good. I feel better about the pitching staff now than I did, say, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a pitching staff that needs to be just good enough. I think Dodgers fans would agree. If the Dodgers are going to win the NLDS and then beat whoever, the Phillies or whoever in the NLCS, maybe the Brewers, whoever that might be, I think they're going to have to do it with their offense. I think the starting pitching needs to be good enough. Hey, maybe 5 innings or so, give up 2 or 3 runs. And then, as you said, the formula has been starting pitching being good enough, offense scoring just enough, and then the bullpen just shutting down the other team. That's been the formula for the Dodgers a lot as of late against the better teams.
Well, let's face it, Case, don't kid yourself. The Dodgers are built to be an offensive team.
Yes, they are.
They spent tons of money to get Yamamoto, what have you, but they have built this team to be an offensive juggernaut. And at times it has been, when everybody's healthy. So if it's going to come down to that, maybe they feel the same way, that the offense has to be better to overcome some things and to win it all. And they've definitely put the offense together that, it can be devastating at times if you look at, especially the bottom of the order is contributing.
Yeah. So today being Tuesday, this is the day to where it's that optional. It's kind of optional, but I've never known an optional practice to where everybody didn't show up, if that makes sense. Right. Usually when your coach says, hey, this is optional, yes, it is optional, meaning we're not going to hold it against you, but typically speaking, everybody shows up to those practices, right, or those workouts. So I think probably everybody for the Dodgers will get some work in today. So, and I know Wednesday from then on is going to be mandatory. You're bringing some minor league guys up to scrimmage to do that kind of thing. So if you're Dave Roberts, if you're one of the players, How do you take this week to get ready for? I know inter squads are one thing. It is live pitching. It's the best you can do. But there's just. I've even talked to several of these guys like Michael Grove, like they were at the complex rehabbing and that kind of stuff. You just can't match the adrenaline of a game environment, especially a playoff environment. So what types of things do you do to try to trick your brain into trying to practice in a scenario that somewhat matches what you're going to see Saturday?
I don't think there is. I don't think you have anything, Case. The Dodgers have been in this situation enough. They've tried different approaches. I think, a couple, you get in your rest, which is good for especially guys that are banged up, but you're still getting your work in. But there's no way to simulate what you're going to be going through, what you just went through, what you're going to go through later. So I don't, there's 1,000 ways to look at it. It's great to have the time off, but as we know, baseball is a sport that needs to be played every day, and I still worry about it. And because recent history tells us the teams that are sitting out get smoked when they come out and start playing. And that goes back to last year. Not fair, because baseball is not a it's not a perfect reasoning on our mind. But recent history tells you it's got to be. It's great on one hand, but I know that they talked more about it last year. I haven't heard as much talk about it this year amongst the Dodgers. They talked about it before, and then lo and behold, they go out and get smoked. So, it did happen. And they were talking about the different approaches to try to get things. I think you just do the best you can do. You got to see live pitching. They are doing that. They're seeing live pitching. They play in game situations, but it's also an empty stadium and a lot of good old boy pats on the back and stuff like that. So it's not going to be the same, but it's all you can do. You don't have any choice. It's like a football team that, the NFL that gets that week off. It all sounds good, but meanwhile, the other teams just keep rolling. And that happens more than not, that the wild card, the teams that are playing the most, end up winning it all.
Yeah. It just seems like that. Of course, this is never going to happen because of TV and they like that money. But it just seems like that wild card round should just be that one game again like they used to do. Hey, if you don't like it, don't be a wild card team, right?
Yep.
So, I don't think the team that wins 98 games and is the best team in baseball, which the Dodgers have been, should have to be punished to go an entire week without playing the game of baseball. This is not football. You need to stay in a rhythm. But that is what it is. That's spilling over your spilt milk. But, hey, we know the starting rotation, Will Smith. Coach, is he going to catch every game in the playoffs? Do the Dodgers dare put Austin? Of course, Austin Barnes has been out a little bit with injury, but we've talked about Will Smith and his wearing down. He's hitting better as of late, 250 in his last 7 games, and he's had he had the huge home run a couple of games ago. But does Will Smith catch every game in the playoffs, you think?
I think he has to. That's just, you're talking, you may think the same way as baseball managers. I'm going, it's time now, your best players got to play. And they've done a great job, Case, almost a masterful job of the way they've handled him. And they've been able to do that because of Austin Barnes and even, Hunter Fiducia come up and filled in too. So they've done a masterful job of seeing earlier where he was wearing down and got his time off. And I think we're seeing that the wheels coming around as far as his bat. But I think where we are now, yes, he has to catch her. That don't mean he will. And I know they got a lot of confidence in Austin Barnes, and we do too. I don't feel bad with Austin Barnes in their catching, but if Will's swinging the bat like he has been, I think he has to be in there every game. It's the playoff time. It is what it is.
Dodgers left Freddie Freeman home from Colorado. They do expect him to play in the divisional series. Now, it's not like he's a shortstop or a center fielder. Hey, first base, you still have to be athletic around the bag and all that. But what concerns do you have about him?
It's the same thing. You just, you never know till you see him get out there and start moving around. I know the thing we talked about earlier.
How much will it affect his offense, though, even if the ankle's not perfect?
Because it was his right ankle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's going to, that's, if it's still bothersome, it's going to affect his swing somewhat. Of course, he's not going to be on his front leg a lot, but, we all know getting balance, that staying that back leg, digging the back leg, whatever all the hitting gurus use. But it could affect him more at the plate than will the field. I'm like you. He's not going to be Billy Buckner out there that can barely move playing first base. He's not going to be in that realm. But, he can play first base, not at 100%. But I'm like you. I would have more concerns on how it would affect the swing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Gavin Lux, of course, he had the great second half, terrible first half. A lot of reasons for that. Very proud of him for rebounding. Then he kind of went in the tank again for quite a while. And I think Dodgers fans who never trust Gavin Lux to begin with, it's the craziest thing you've ever seen, because I think they had all these expectations and all that. But it is what it is. And then he kind of goes in the tank again there for a while, right in front of the playoffs, and Dodgers fans are like, "Oh my God, what do we do with the guy? I thought we were over this. What do we?" And then all of a sudden, he gets back off the mat again, gets the huge hit to score Tommy Edman against the Padres, and is hitting the ball again. So, does Gavin Lux play every game, or is that a platoon? Do you think at second base?
I think you play. Again, you're gonna go back to the same thing. I think you play him every game. I mean, this is a point of the year. This is not time to, Dave, I don't know what he'd do. I don't know, with the clubhouse or private conversations. We've all had those conversations with players. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But if you've shown that kind of confidence in this young man when he was struggling, to stick
good point,
with him,
Coach.
You stayed with him and let him work himself out of it. And he did it and and had a great second half of the year. I don't think that, I think he's got to be in there all the time. You've trusted him up to this point, even when it looked like everybody, hey, send him down the minor. He's hitting 160, whatever the heck it was. You stuck with him, man. You showed the confidence in the young man, and he's repaid you by the way what he's done the second half. I think he's earned the right to be in there all the time. He's going to. He is what he is. He'll make an error once in a while in there, but he's not horrible. He's a good athlete. He can swing the bat. He can run a little bit. So, this is the old Legion high school coach here. My best guy's got to be out on the field, and you can be smart with your catcher. They may want to get wheel out every chance you get, but if Lux is your best player at second base, he plays. He plays all the time.
Worried about Miguel Rojas. The Dodgers are a much better team when he's in the lineup and healthy. I said a long time ago, if people watch Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, there's receipts all over the different podcasts that your everyday shortstop can't be Miguel Rojas, not because he's not good, but because he is 36 and he won't make it to the finish line. We've seen that. It's better when the Dodgers can throw a Tommy Edman or a Kike Hernandez or somebody like that at shortstop to take some of the pressure off of Miguel Rojas. So it's just so interesting that the best team in baseball, you're starting rotations. It's people are wondering who that was going to be, and then your shortstop position's kind of up in flux and all of that. So what are we going to see at shortstop, do you think?
You just mentioned two names of great contributors to the Dodgers. Pick up Tommy Edman, Kike Hernandez. Kike's been great down the stretch. We already know what he brings to the table defensively. He can play a lot of different places, but he's been outstanding with a bat. And we've got the love fest going on with Tommy Edman ever since we've had him. And same with Kike. So you're right. It's the best team in baseball, and not having a set position there with his shortstop, but
that's the first one you fill usually.
Yeah, exactly. The old school. Back in the old days when I first started, you got to be strong in the middle.
Absolutely.
Don't care if they hit 200. You got to be strong in the middle. But anyway, it's not that way anymore with all the big boppers coming along playing in the middle of the infield, all that stuff, catchers. But it's great to have those two guys because they performed well. The Dodgers I think they're in good shape right there. Yeah, Rojas at 36. Our worst fears were him not being able to make it due to injury, and that's not his fault. He's just doing the best he can do. He's 36 years old. But
sure, love that guy.
I do too. I'd love to play every game with him.
Dude's a dog,
too.
Man. I want him to be a manager someday.
Yeah, he could be a man. He could play every day. He could be a manager and do all those things. But I feel good about whatever they do with Edman or Kike, whoever's in playing shortstop. The Dodgers will be in good shape there.
I totally agree. Max Muncy, I think Max Muncy and Will Smith are X factors. The Dodgers can win even if those two don't hit. But if those two do hit, the Dodgers will win. That's kind of the way I put it with them. Because when those two hit, it goes from, probably scoring 3 or 4 runs and sweating it out to like scoring 8 or 9 runs. And now you've got a pretty good margin for error when those guys hit. So I think the X factors are those two. And then Teo has been really good. But I think it's going to be interesting to see. He's another one. How is he going to handle the big moment of the playoffs? We saw him handle the big moments of the regular season. Those made him better. So it's going to be fun to watch him in this environment.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I just started mentioning Teo before you threw his name in there. He's a big X factor. You got a guy 30-plus homers, and he's done exactly what we thought he'd do when he came to the He's been a little bit better. He's went 30-something homers, and it has been a the good thing about him, he's had that luxury of not having to be the guy. You know, kind of like we talked about Ohtani.
He's enjoyed that too.
Ohtani, you're the guy, but you still got a couple Hall of Famers right behind you, MVP guys. So you don't have to do it all. But T.O.'s been great. I totally agree with you. If Muncy, who looks like he's totally coming out of his injury, and Will and T.O., man, if those guys heat up, the Dodgers have a good chance of rolling through this thing.
Worried about Tommy Edman? The thing is, I said this on Tim's show, went on Sunday night, but Tommy Edman's always been just a tick below league average offensively as a player. Got off to the really hot start with the Dodgers. Coming back to earth a little bit, kind of the way I explain it is, he's turning into what Tommy Edman actually is as an offensive player. So what concerns do you have with that as he has struggled down the stretch?
Well, as long as he's what he is, he's not worse than what he is. If Tommy Edman's who he always has been, it's like T.O. We don't expect T.O. to be a superhuman. Be what you've always been. He has been, and maybe a little bit better what he has been. Yeah. Same way with Edman. The Dodgers knew what they were getting. They've wanted him a long time. They've coveted Tommy for a long time. We know that. They know what they're getting there. If he's just Tommy Edman, that's fine. You don't want to 0 for 15 out of him. But, if he just does Tommy Edman things and he brings so much to the table in every other area, we'll take that.
He just needs to be the average offensive player and then be the elite just IQ guy, like take the extra base, that kind of thing, to add to that average offense, to add to his just great defense, and then the mentality he brings. And then obviously Mookie Betts in right field. But what role does that leave Andy Pages?
And Andy's put himself in good position to be a spot starter, come in late in the game or whatever have. But he's a credit to him. He had some struggles, a young guy, first year in the big leagues, but he's made a good account of himself and given Dave a lot. He's got the Dodgers have to feel good about him going into the playoffs. Whatever role they choose him at, to play center field, whatever the case it may be. I think they feel pretty good about it. Again, he don't have to be the guy. Pages, just be yourself, man. We can't have an 0 for 15 out of anybody, be real honestly, up and down the lineup. So just be who you are. But he's shown to be a little bit better than that here in the latter part of the year, a little bit better than what he was before.
I think he does have a role because I think Edman probably will play some shortstop with the Miguel Rojas injuries, and I think that does put Andy Pages in the lineup from time to time. Coach, let's finish this. Do you trust Dave Roberts in this situation? That's the big one, right?
Yeah, I'm going to trust him. The proof's going to be in the pudding.
It is.
Case we know from being in a smaller version of his role. The proof's in the pudding. Your talk doesn't mean anything. Your previous successes or failures doesn't mean anything.
Do you want him to be more analytical, or do you want him to go with his gut more as the playoffs start?
I'd love to. I'm a gut guy, just like you are. Certain parts of analytics are great, the spray charts, whatever, the tendencies, blah, blah, blah. Certain parts that are great, big part of the game. Even on high school, very relevant. But man, you go with your gut, man. Whatever. We saw that a few years ago with Tampa Bay.
Does he have the feel to go with his gut, though, in these situations?
Yeah, he's got
good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
We'll see. I guess
don't have to prove. He don't have to prove anything to me because what he's done the last 2 years during the regular season is great. But let's face it, Case, it's always going to come down to what you do in the playoffs. It should be. That's why
they didn't go get Ohtani to win to be the regular season world champions. They got Ohtani to win world championships.
No, they don't spend $1 billion on these guys to finish runner up and hey, great job during the regular season. No, he's going to earn his money in the playoffs and like I said, there's been a lot of heat on him in the past, especially after last year.
Rightfully so.
But that's the way it is. It always comes back to head guy. You 100%. Had heat on us at Guthrie High School and Stillwater High School. I had heat on McGlencoe High School.
I want that. That means people care. They have expectations.
That means you have absolutely. I was telling somebody the other day, we were talking about coaching. I said, I felt the most stress when we were good. We were just like, because
no doubt.
I felt like we're supposed to win every night. Absolutely. I had more stress on me when we had a good team because you feel like you're supposed to win every day and, whatever. There's no upsets, whatever. So he has a pressure on him. There's no doubt about it. But, he hasn't shown that he can handle pressure. But the proof's going to be in the pudding on how the Dodgers perform in the playoffs. It's going to be his job will be determined what to do in the playoffs. There ain't no doubt about it, because they're all in from the top to the bottom. And unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, the manager's the one that's going to take the heat.
If you don't like that, don't be the manager of the Dodgers, man. Go be the manager of some rogue high school team out there, right?
It's the best job in the world, if you don't, if you can't stand
or a JUCO baseball program, something like that. If that's what you do, it is what it is, and it's just so intriguing to me because his legacy is just such in a teeter-totter position right now. Shouldn't be. He's been great, but it is what it is, Coach. I mean, he could win a World Series or two here and become the Hall of Fame manager, or he could not win a World Series or two and become Marv Levy, right? And be that kind of that situation to where, the great regular season manager, but couldn't get over the hump in the postseason. So I trust me, I'm not just rooting for the Dodgers. No. From a personal level, I love Dave Roberts. I love what he's done for the Dodgers. I love what he represents. I want him to be our manager. I'm rooting as much for him as I think, on a personal level, as I am for the Dodgers just as an organization to win, because I want to see him get the credit he's been due.
Yeah, I totally agree. Some of the old-time politicians, the buck stops here. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen.
That's all true.
That's all true. Like I said,
I can't take that away from Dave. It is what it is. But I'm rooting for him. That's all I could say.
No, that's absolutely correct. And he's shown he can. He can handle it. I mean, as far as the heat, there's no doubt. Being the manager of the Dodgers or the Yankees or whoever, back in the day, whatever, that's heat. You got the heat on
heat.
you. And don't do it. Like you said, he's shown he can handle that part, but it's going to come down to wins and losses in the playoffs. And like you said, I'm pulling for him too, because if he does well, the Dodgers are doing well.
Yeah, that's the best point right there to make, Coach. So final thoughts. We have about 30 seconds here. Final thoughts on putting the regular season to bed, concerns, excitements. What do you have here going as we finish this thing up here on a Tuesday morning?
Well, as far as what the Dodgers have been dealt with all year and the way they've been able to overcome it, I like where they are right now. I mean, they had, as we mentioned, it wasn't like last year. They didn't coast into the finish line. They had to battle their guts out right to the end against a great Padre team. So I like where they are, going into it. It's almost like I feel better about this team than I did last year, because last year just kind of cruising along there. And
I feel better if they had glass now, but
no doubt about it. Yeah, there is a couple of pieces, but that's the thing about it. The Dodgers have been able to overcome it. Thank God we got Flaherty, and Kopech there on the end of it. So there's some what they did at the trading deadline. We can't imagine until the end if it really turned out. But up to this point, it's turned out
Saturday
great.
Started right now. I mean, I've got to wait all the way till Saturday,
I
man.
know, man. What the heck?
It's going to kill my ass.
Waiting's, I hate and
I hate it.
I'll watch all the other games, and start texting all my buddies about stuff. So, but I can't wait till Saturday. And it's going to be. I'll be shocked if it's not the Padres, but whoever it is, it's going to be a tough out. Yeah.
This one here is Barn. You know what that means, Coach. Time to take the Dodgers dog for a walk.
The Dodger dogs got to do their thing, man, and we're all ready. Let's get it done.
Coach, great to see your face first thing Tuesday morning. I love you.
Love you too, Case, and Dodger dogs. And here we are. Let's go. It's go time.
Let's go. Let's go.